Hello, Moreland. Welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. And my guest is, well, he's not a real stranger. It's always around here, Mr. Raymond Jessurun. Mr. Raymond Jessurun is Vice President of the Jessurun Senior Citizen Association, right?
Seniors and Pensioners Association.
Right. And you're also with the Anti-Poverty Platform?
As a coordinator, yes.
You're doing a lot of things, man. You're still looking great. The last time I see you looking younger, man. What you doing? What's the key?
Well, once you have faith, the Lord provides you with the strength every day to continue to do what you have to do.
That's good. That's
one of the main things that I have to do is to speak out on behalf of the poor and the needy and judge righteously.
Amen. We need more like you. You know, we really need more like you. On St. Martin these days, a lot of people have a lot of things to say, but not many people do what you're doing. So we really appreciate that.
You're welcome. I think that there are a lot of people that speak out. When you listen to radio programs where they call in, you hear people speaking out.
You know, I'm the one that started all that in St. Martin. I can tell you, it's been a big change in St. Martin. There's fear. And the people, they're really afraid. So you just...
I know that that is one of the things. The fear is there, but more and more people have the courage now to speak out. And I think what our contribution is that we provide also background and educative information so that you can have a better judgment and a better way of addressing the issues.
So you ever thought you'd be doing this still? I mean, from your days in Curacao to now, you ever thought that one day Mr. Raymond Jessurun, will still be doing what you're doing now? Because it's like you're doing additional things.
Well, put it this way, I have been, first of all, working as a civil servant, but also as a union leader. And when you are in those double capacities.
It's tough, huh?
Yeah.
It is difficult.
It is difficult. From the one hand, you have to consider your job and also the requirements for the job. But on the other hand, also, you have the freedom of speech. And that is something that within the union umbrella, you have that liberty to express yourself and to educate your members. So that has been continuing from helping the workers to the seniors that were also involved in our labor union. I've been since I started to work in 1976. I have been a labor union member of the APFO, the largest union in the Netherlands Antilles at that time. And I'm still part of the membership, yes, because we don't throw out the seniors. When you reach the age of 60, it was then 65, we still embrace you as a member in this union. And so the whole thing of addressing also the needs of the workers that are retired has brought me also in this setting of setting up here in St. Martin, the St. Martin Seniors and Pensioners Association, together with other seniors that have quit their job, had to retire, and was confronted with actually when they tell you you go on pension, now you can enjoy your pension. Well, it's only then that you start to see, boy, we had to fight this thing long before. Because we are still not there.
We had to prepare actually for this time, in a way.
Yeah, well, it's not only preparing. It is you had to fight for you to get the same treatment in the state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And we didn't do that enough in the past. It started in the 90s that the FEPESCO, which was the Federation of Petroleum Workers, they started to address this issue gradually with the Dutch Ministry of Interior Affairs. And they were constantly referring them back to the government in the Netherlands Antilles. But now more and more, based on knowledge about what is it that the international covenants actually ratified by the kingdom bring for us, this whole thing of equal treatment unequally implemented in the kingdom is becoming now more and more something that we can bring to the forefront.
You see, that's when I introduced you at the start of the program, I made reference to how young you look. And you're sitting under these lights. These lights show everything. And they really show you as a guy who's pretty young for your age. And the thing about it is, when people come here on the show, sometimes they'll say, well, boy, getting old, feeling. You never say that, you know? What you do, man, because it's so different than a lot of other people that are out there that are seniors. You got some special secret before we go over to the real stuff?
Well, I think my faith in the Lord is one that for sure keeps me going. That's one. The next thing is that in my own personal life, my wife is taking very good care of me. And secondly, by being optimistic, by knowing that you have a mission to complete, do what you have to do. I wake up every morning very early, I start to do what I have to do, and during the day I will be addressing the needs of those that come to me.
Oh, okay.
And so it keeps you alive, it keeps you busy.
Yeah.
And in a healthy way, I say it's because of the whole package.
So if you don't use it, you lose it, no way.
Exactly.
So when you walk into you made a little joke with me about April Fool's joke.
Well, there were a lot of April Fool's jokes. As you know, there was one about that we become a province, and a special province of the Netherlands. Yeah. Then there was this one of a worker that came to me at the Weifel office and asked me if this thing of minimum wage increase by the 1st of April was an April Fool's joke or if it was something that was really decreed.
Right.
So we did our homework, double checking. And indeed, we have been receiving from the Labor Department the decree that as per the 1st of April, the minimum wage has been increased to $1,000, 1,801 guilder. The fact that it has been announced already before the election,
right,
it looked as a political gimmick. And why I say it's a political gimmick? Because you do as if the minimum wage is now a living wage. Even though it was said that this is a next step towards a minimum wage, the injustice is that the minimum wage is still not a livable wage, and it is still a poverty wage. Knowing that majority of the workers in the island live on a minimum wage, this is an injustice to the workers and their families. And how does that impact the seniors? The understand and the social allowance that we have here, and also the old age pensions, they are linked up to what is the minimum wage. They never increase it to be higher than the minimum wage. It's 70% of that. So this whole gimmick of providing a minimum, it is actually an injustice to give us a minimum. You can't give us a minimum. You should give us a livable wage, and as is in the international treaties for all the workers, there should be an equal remuneration throughout the state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Every state has to comply with that international convention of the ILO, this ILO Convention number 100. What does it mean to have an equal remuneration? If you are a sanitary worker, you clean the garbage. In the Netherlands, you are being paid according to a level of income, a remuneration for a human being doing this, picking up the garbage, picking up your things that you throw away. Very difficult situation for the hygienic situation of these people. What do they pay them here? And when you see that this is not equal, it is in violation of this international convention. And that's why I say, we have to do these independent job evaluations. And based on these independent criteria, you have to jack up at least to the same level as in the Netherlands, because that is what is the convention requirement. But in the case of us here, with a higher cost of living than in the Netherlands, it should be even higher than what they have in the Netherlands.
So it should be like 30% above what the Netherlands is probably, right?
Well, I'm careful there. I still want to say, let us do the research of how exactly right now the cost of living is playing out.
So the minimum wage in the Netherlands is what now?
That's around $1,800.
Euros, yeah, right.
But maybe it's good to address this. When you say you need a minimum wage increase to $1,000, to 1,800 guilders, what is it that the cost of living requires from you here in St. Maarten? So what we did was we did the research. In 1974, in the Netherlands Antilles, there was a household budget survey done by the government of the Netherlands Antilles.
74?
Yes. And in the 80s, the Dutch experts and the Antillean experts came together to provide a plan for the development of the Netherlands Antilles. And in that plan, they put out that because of the cost of living, what a worker, an administrative worker needed at that time was 1,000 guilders a month. And if you had harder work to do outside there in the hot sun, you had 1,350 guilders that you needed. And that was for your calories, that was for your roof on your head, that was for all of the things that you needed as basic needs in the Netherlands Antilles. What happened? We are 50 years later. And so when the minister said that this minimum wage this time was increased, but it was not based on the cost of living increase. So they just throw out an amount. And then when we go and see what is the real cost of living, if we look from 1974 to now 2024, it's 50 years. What happened then? That same 1,000 guilders for an administrative worker now, at basic needs, if the package didn't change, it is now 4,000 guilders plus. And for the person that does a hard job out there, 1,350 guilders, that is now 5,200 plus. That is following the cost of living increase in these 50 years here in St. Maarten. So if you come now with a gimmick of 1,800 guilders for all workers as minimum wage, none of them can survive with one job. None. So this practice that you have been seeing already, that a lot of people had to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs to make the end meet, is actually injustice. Because everybody wants to work an 8-hour job.
Right.
But when you force workers that are on a minimum wage to look for extra income to be made by extra job, it is unjust because they can't spend quality time with their family. So these are things that have to be addressed. When we see that this is what is happening in this part of the kingdom, the whole issue of poverty, is 1,000 guilders enough for you to cover your basic needs? We say no. And actually you are in poverty.
Right.
So the minimum wage is keeping the workers in poverty. And actually on the other side of the story, the businesses in the business community, with all due respect, they are treating the workers, if they are paying them with a minimum wage, also unjust, because you have to provide them with a fair wage. That's also an international convention.
But the business
article.
are saying, look, we're just complying with the government standards for minimum wage.
No. If the government said that this is the minimum, government is saying don't go below that.
And some still go below that.
But the issue is, you as a business community, you don't have to pay the minimum wage. You can pay a fair wage. And so what we see in this society is that we allow too much people to take advantage of the poor and the needy. And so it's not me saying this. If even State Secretary Van Huffelen was informing the second chamber in the Netherlands that more than 70% of the people in Curaçao, St. Martin live in poverty, she didn't lie.
That came out in the transparency report.
It was already in the transparency report, but it didn't change. What has changed? Now, Van Huffelen put this because she was saying, look at what we have proposed for Seba, Statia, and Bonaire. They are increasing there to $1,750.
But they didn't put the euros and done. But then
No, but they changed in these islands the currency to dollars, not euro.
Well, we know why too.
Yes.
Why they did that.
Yes.
So it's not big difference.
It's the next game.
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic. If you like one of these days, we can address a specific program to this whole thing of dollarization, yes or no. But put it back to what the State Secretary Van Huffelen did. She lost election there with her party. They are not in the negotiations for a new government, but she put down $750 now for the minimum wage in the Best Islands. Now, what does it mean? Even the elucidation with the decree for the $1,000 for the minimum wage as per the 1st of April mentions that we have still the lowest minimum wage in the kingdom. Now, when a minister can tell you, when a government can tell you, I have you on the lowest minimum wage and you have the highest cost of living in the kingdom, this is what we know, what we call social injustice, and this is a crime. Because this is what you do, you're robbing the people from having a decent income. Now, by saying this, I know not everybody would like to hear it, but we have to speak the truth. You can be challenging and you can be saying what it is that you do for the people. But keeping the people in poverty, that is not what you had to do. What you had to do is take them out of poverty and provide them with an equal treatment in the kingdom. And that brings us to what we as Anti-Poverty Platform did before the election. We provided all the political parties challenging the election of January before the elections with a draft for an equal treatment in the kingdom.
What was their response?
At first, none of them responded. We gave them a reminder as Anti-Poverty Platform, and we tell them again, you can tweak the draft, put it how you want to see it. But anyway, we want a commitment of you. It was only one political party that called us for some more explanation, but none of the parties brought a written statement, a written declaration that they are going to challenge, that they are going to fight in the kingdom for us to get an equal treatment across the board.
You know why? Huh?
I don't know why. Because what I want to understand is that you should not treat another as you don't want to be treated. It was our own politicians that before 10-10-10 raised their pension, raised their salaries in parliament up to the same level or more or less as in the Netherlands. And why they did it for themselves and not for the people, for the workers. So here is what you see. They only think about me and they don't think about we.
But you know, Mr. Jessurun, that these political parties are financed by the business community.
That is true.
And if you go and champion what, as a political party, what you just said, forget about it.
But even the business community has to understand that in a democratic society, there are international laws to be respected. Human rights are codified in international laws, and they are also part of the legislation in our land that we still have not, but our local legislation up to the level as the international treaties is an omission of our politicians in Parliament. But bring it back to what we asked. Can you please, in the coming 4 years, commit to, as a government and as Parliament, to bring us to an equal treatment in the kingdom? For that, you have to negotiate with the Netherlands. You have to provide them with, hey, you signed for this. So you have to provide the support for us to reach there. None of them did. And I don't know what these 4x2, as they call them.
2x4.
No, 4x2. It is not 2 parties with 4 seats. It's 4 parties with 2 seats. Yeah. What are they negotiating? What does that take so much time? Look, to say I'm going to realize a program and I want to have a government that can realize an equal treatment in the kingdom, so I'm going for it. I will challenge the Dutch to put the money where the mouth is, because St. Maarten self doesn't have enough. So what we do then? That is not something to negotiate so long. These people are busy to form a government, and I don't think how long already they are busy with this. And now they got another extension from the governor. But let's us understand this thing. None of them until today came out to say, this is what we are going for. And in our negotiations, everybody agreed that this is what we are going for. So I thank you for this program. Because how many people really challenge our politicians to defend the interests of our people, to defend our human rights, to do what is right? Now, that is where you see we need not only to speak out, but we need also to unite and to put some good pressure for them to do right.
In case you've just joined us, this is Oral Gibbs Live. My guest is Mr. Raymond Jessurun. He is the Vice President of the Senior Citizens Association, right?
Seniors and Pensioners Association.
I will leave out the pensioner. And you're also advisor to Anti-Poverty Platform?
Yes, the coordinator. And right. In that platform, you have the Windward Islands Chamber of Labor Unions, the 8 unions in the island.
Right.
You have the NGOs affiliated to the Sunfed. And of course, our own Seniors and Pensioners Association.
Right. And so you're either watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or listening to us on Hot 99.9 FM radio. You know, Mr. Jessurun, I've had you many times in the program. You speak about our politicians and the Dutch government in terms of equal rights, etc. And every time I agree with what you're saying, but it seems like nothing is happening. What's the next step? What do you think should be done next? Because it's just staying the same.
Well, we have been trying to advocate for equal rights. Martin Luther King stood up for equal rights, equal treatment for a segment of the population. We are standing up for all of us in this part of the kingdom to get an equal treatment. So who is joining the platform? Who is really aware that this is an injustice, that you are not treating us equal? This is discrimination, and therefore we have to stand up together. Now, why it is not happening? That's your question. First of all, even if we don't want to do it, the Dutch that signed and ratified the treaty, they are responsible to do it. I just came from a conference in the Netherlands. It was about climate change adaptation. Did you know that a few citizens of Bonaire, together with Greenpeace, as an international organization, they bring the Dutch government to court at the moment for the fact that they haven't done nothing to defend the people of Bonaire for the sea level that is rising. Now, this is an example. Defend the people for sea level rising. Who will stand up and go to court to demand from the Dutch Kingdom government that they provide us with an equal treatment as human beings not only against the possible consequences of sea level rise or disasters that can come because of hurricanes and so. No, because of the social injustice that we are not being treated equal. So I look at it like that. Even the Dutch government, who pretends to be human rights defenders in the world, they are not sticking to what they have signed. And with the governor here in the island, even when our local politicians, has just happened now, with this decree of the minimum wage, putting it to $1,000, the governor had to present this thing to the kingdom government.
You mean before signing off on it?
Yes, because this going against the non-discrimination principle that is in the international treaty that was ratified by the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Maybe he's not aware of it.
I doubt that he is not aware.
He's a lawyer, by the way.
Because he was one of the persons present on October 17th at the University of St. Martin when we had a panel discussion on we can eradicate the poverty now. Of course, everybody has their own opinion, but as anti-poverty platform, we showed and illustrated that there is no legal barrier to do it, number one. And number two, all it takes is for the politicians to legislate it, and for the governor, if they don't want to legislate it, to take it to the kingdom government for annulment.
Mr. Jessurun,
and to change it.
Political reality on St. Martin is that we both know politicians and political parties need the business community. There are about 3 or 4 large business operators on this island that really control everything and instruct the politicians what to do and what not to do. And one of those instructions are, be careful, don't mess with that minimum wage. So I understand what you're saying, I fully support it, but until we get a new breed of politicians and political parties on this island who will be independent from the influence of these 4 different businesses, which I'm not going to call their name, by the way, we will be forever stuck in this cycle.
I have good news for you.
Okay.
You remember that the kingdom government imposed some measures that cut in the workers and their income. You remember 20% for the private sector, 12.5% for the workers of government and semi-government. And the politicians got a 25%. You remember?
Right.
Who imposed that measure? That was the kingdom government. In the same way...
With the agreement of all politicians.
Yeah, and in the same way that the business community applauded this decision, the business community also had and can be addressed by providing them with, by law, international public law, you are required to treat the people equal.
You know, I see what you're saying, I agree with it, because you remember during that time, the whole payroll support for business, how that came about. So, and these are some of these same businesses, the ones who've been abusing the workers more than anyone else, and they benefit. In fact, they push for it.
So I can tell you, it was also done in the Netherlands. So in that way, hey, they got an equal treatment here
for the first time.
The business community in this way. Well, what about the workers? None of the workers in the Netherlands got a cut. The workers in this part of the kingdom, Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin, got a cut. In Bonaire Station, Saba, they didn't get a cut. So what you see here, this is what we call the kingdom government, the one that has to make sure that everybody is being treated equal, is not doing it. So before we look at our own politicians and our own business community, for whatever reason they don't want to comply, it is the first and foremost the kingdom government that's responsible that in the state, the kingdom of the Netherlands, everybody should be treated equal.
So you're saying if the kingdom government push this whole issue,
it will happen. And it can happen tomorrow. So but none of the Dutch politicians from time that they started to colonize this territory, have been applying what they have in their own constitution. That is, you should not treat another differently from yourself. They have always been treating our people different.
So
this is apartheid. Because until the day of today, even in Bonaire Station Sabre, which is now integrated, they call it special. So special that you discriminate them by not providing them with the equal treatment. Now, for us from Curacao, Bonaire, Aruba, and St. Martin, we also entitled to an equal treatment, and that has nothing to do with the fact that we are autonomous. It has to do with, in one state, there must be one common treatment for all.
Like the French side.
Exactly. And that has nothing to do, that is in the international treaty that they signed. In the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Article 2, already in 1948, the Dutch, as a founding member of the United Nations, they codified in Article 2 that regardless of the jurisdiction of your territory and the constitutional status of your territory, you are entitled to an equal treatment within the state.
But we had the former Nelson Tillies with I think at the time, the most educated politicians in the region, many doctorandus. They didn't do it.
Because they went to universities in the Netherlands where they were not taught to respect human rights. I'm one of those exceptions that not only got my education in the Netherlands and was not instructed in providing equal treatment, human rights in the state, because we were told the narrative as your country. And as a country, based on the constitutional setup, it was said, is your country is responsible to realize human rights. And in Article 43 of the Charter of the Kingdom, only when you violate, grossly violate, then it is a responsibility of the kingdom government to guarantee that you have human rights, good governance, and legal certainty. Now I come there, why? Because this same article is in violation actually of what the international treaty is requiring from the state government of the Netherlands for us here in the territory. They are not providing us with that equal treatment. They are not coming with measures to provide us with equal treatment. So all what they do is provide us with inequality. And if we don't bring them to court, that's one way, or bring them to the United Nations, Mr. Gibbs, you remember that our parliament hired an American lawyer.
Yeah, did he get paid?
I don't know about that part. What I know is that he came out with a report. He had also conversations with our anti-poverty platform.
It was quite an interesting time in Parliament. I remember that.
And I can tell you, his report, based on international treaties, was actually saying that what happened in this part of the kingdom, with the measures also that came down from the Netherlands, this is what we call racial discrimination, according to that international treaty. Secondly, he also showed that this was in violation of the article for non-discrimination in the other covenants for economic, social, and cultural rights. Now, that report went to the United Nations, but our government at that time didn't follow up, as we understood, because of pressure of the kingdom government. But again, if our parliament was willing to stood up and stand up for us, that's what you actually have to do. Represent your people and stand up for our rights. Now, where we are now, this is after this thing happened.
Right.
None of our parliamentarians until now is singing the same song, standing up for equal treatment in the kingdom. So you ask me, what can our parliamentarians do? Just hold the Dutch responsible. Just hold them accountable. And the louder you can speak about that, the better. And especially when we have prime ministers going to United Nations meetings and dealing with all countries that surround us. Bring it up, tell them how we are being treated. And then this whole gimmick of, oh, we thought that you all were, as Dutch citizens, treated equal, is over and done with. It has to become the norm that they have to respect and stop the apartheid that they are implementing.
Well, Mr. Jessurun, there was a politician who did that, and his last speech on November 11, 1990, was his last speech. The Dutch made sure they took care of him. He went to his grave, a very sad man. And that's a history of when you stand up to the Dutch. And I think our politicians, those that have a little brain, and I think most of them do, recall that. And they're not going to do it. They're not going to go to that extent that you just mentioned.
I think, again, first thing, do they really love the Lord? Number one. Because if you love the Lord, then you have to love your neighbor as yourself. So, are they really loving the people as themselves? I remind you, they fixed their remunerations in Parliament before 10. And we are now 12 years later, 14 years later this year, and we don't have that equal treatment for the people. So, with that said, we can hold our local politicians accountable. Yes, we elected the same kind of breed of politicians, but there was also this, that the majority of those that got a seat in Parliament, they wanted to change. So we're looking forward to that change now.
Do you think they really realize the responsibility and the power that they hold? Do you really think they do?
Well, I say it again. How long can they play the game of an ostrich? An ostrich puts his head in the sand, but you will still see him. You can't continue to play that game, especially with an anti-poverty platform that is speaking out for so many years already.
And they hear you all the time.
And we were in Parliament, we were everywhere. So, with that said, you either don't want to listen, or you either want to continue to fool the people that you are defending their rights. The anti-poverty platform tells you, you can fool some people sometime, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's our role. We have to provide you with that insight. We have to provide you with that information. We have to provide you with that education that you have equal rights. By the way, as an ambassador to international organizations on behalf of civil society organizations in Latin America and the Caribbean, it's not only for our island and for our islands here in the Dutch part of the kingdom. It's also for the countries, the seniors and the workers of the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. That it was last year in November that the United Nations Population Fund invited me to address the governments of Latin America and the Caribbean for the evaluation of the Montevideo Convention.
Right.
I was asked two questions, and I got 10 minutes. Number one, what has impacted the seniors the most in Latin America and the Caribbean? And number two, how can we come up with sustainable solution for the seniors? Let me start with the last one. We losing seniors day by day because they pass away. So what kind of sustainability you can bring for the seniors? Why I say so? Because the seniors have 60, 70, 80 years, 90 years, some over 100 years of experience of poverty. The statistics of the Economic Committee for Latin America and the Caribbean that all these governments have provided show that the seniors, and consequently before you become a senior, you have been a worker, they have been living in poverty. And so if the majority in these countries, these states, have been experiencing poverty, all these countries, governments, I could address by saying, In December, the 10th of December, it was the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights that was signed. And Article 1 and Article 2 state clearly that you should not discriminate and that all people are born free and equal in dignity and in rights. So I asked these governments, why didn't they provide us for so many years, 75 years, with that equal treatment? So that is where I can show you then that it is not a problem of here. It is a problem throughout but that is not a reason for the Dutch government now, one of the 10 richest countries in the world, to treat us like that.
All right, Jessurun, I have to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue speaking with Mr. Raymond Jessurun right here on Oral Gibbs Live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio.
Are vibrant, expressive, warm, and diverse. Together, we conquer, and now we expand into new horizons, giving you more of the best. Introducing our new Bankomatico Plus with wider acceptance, purchase protection, and enhanced security. Whether you're online, traveling, or in paradise, experience more with Windward Island Bank. Bankomatico Plus, more of the best.
My guest here on Oral Gibbs Live is Mr. Raymond Jessurun, and we're here to speak with him. He's a champion of the working class, and Mr. Jessurun is the Vice President of the Senior Citizens and Pensioners Association, and he's also anti-poverty platform as always advisor coordinator. All right, and it's always good to have him here in the program with us. You know, you've said a lot. You know, what is the impression you get or response you get from the average man and woman in the street when they see you?
Every time they see me, they tell me, good job, continue, keep them on the toes. That's one thing that they say. On the other hand, they say, I haven't heard you for a while on the radio, where you was. So it means to say that, and even some telling me that they are, as soon as they hear my voice on the radio, they pay attention because they get information, they get education, and they get a lot of insight. So with that said, the issue of how to organize the unity of all those that also believe that they have to be treated equally in the kingdom is what we have to discuss much more. And your program can be one of those platforms where ideas of how to get organized can be brought together. But more important, it's not only inform the people, but organize the people. And that is where, as anti-poverty platform, we would like to reach, that there will be more persons in our society that are willing to put their shoulders under this equal treatment movement that we have to develop to get our rights.
So you feel there are not sufficient people in that area?
Well, I see that, yes, on paper, we have a lot of people saying that they agree and they give us taps on the shoulders, but standing up, and how you can stand up, different ways, speaking out, different ways, addressing the issues and putting pressure on the kingdom government as well as our local government, that is what still has to happen.
What about the Chamber of Labor Unions on the island? You're also involved in it.
I'm their advisor. And I can tell you that all our organizations, they have their struggles. They have this situation that they are feeling like I'm powerless. They are forced to negotiate and to give in constantly.
So they're forced from a position of weakness in a way.
They have a position of weakness because you know what happened in our labor market. Under the motto of flexibility, they fire workers, and through these employment agencies, they put them back to work and they give them short-term contracts. And that is hindering the workers to unite. Because in a company, if a worker, and we have a lot of examples, if he is vocal, they don't extend his contract. And so what we have been seeing is that shop stewards from the unions gradually have been moved out of the companies. And all of those that are still there, they think twice. You have to look for your bread. You can't afford to be set aside because 3 months you have to be out of a job for you then to get your next contract. It is a crime against the workers. And that's where I say the unions until now didn't manage to change the government position, to change the legislation for us to get an equal treatment. And that is where I say again, when you talk about equal treatment, it's not only about remuneration, it's also protection of the workers. And that should be organized and addressed.
You know, that 6-month contract that you just mentioned, for ages, it's been going on. I think it started back in the early or late 1970s when Molebay came to the island. But the thing is that when you look at St. Martin today, poverty is rampant. And it's really scary when you see how many families are suffering. Now, the 6-month contract doesn't help because you can't go to the bank and get a mortgage.
And we live a lie in this island. We say that the 6-month contract is for seasonal work.
But it has its place in a way.
It started with it.
Yeah.
But when you see that people in permanent jobs are being put on 6-month contracts,
Then they have a problem with that.
this is what I say, this is living a lie. This is not seasonal. So when we look
But
at...
legally, can they do that legally? That's not possible.
Yes, they do it because they hire an employment agency.
So that they get
So it's not a business.
okay.
It is the employment agency
loophole.
that has the contracts like that.
Okay.
And those that started it, they saw the loophole and they're making money out of it on the backs of the workers. And this is what I say. This is the injustice. Yeah? We pretend to have a very booming economy. We pretend that we're doing good in business, but we are doing bad in treating workers right.
But the employment agencies are very well connected politically.
Even with that said, the abuse has to stop. And if the politicians don't legislate this thing equally as in the Netherlands, we will be continuing being victims. And I say, when they don't do it, the Dutch government that has to oversee that all legislation is in compliance with the international treaties is also failing, is also not doing what they have to do.
And the Dutch don't care really about us.
But that's why I said we have to stop the apartheid policy that they are sending down and that they're implying here down. And if we don't denounce it internationally, they won't change it. I can tell you our last conference that I attended in the Netherlands about climate adaptation and the seawater level rising and all kind of water-related consequences of the climate change. The Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure was very concerned for our islands. You know why? Because they have a court case coming up that was started by Greenpeace internationally, bringing the Dutch government in harassment because they are boasting with the Delta Works. That's the 7th wonder, they say, of the world. And they never did something for our islands here and the people. So the thing is, do we have to get a disaster as in 1953 in the Netherlands for them to start to do something? No way. You have to treat us equal, so you have to put your money where your mouth is.
But some people say, look, we had Hurricane Irma. The Dutch government stepped in with $500 million. We had COVID. They stepped in. What else? What more we want?
I have to tell all those people they gave the same amount as when Louis hit the island. Building cost went up since then, much higher. That's number one. They said that they are going to rebuild all the homes that have been destroyed. That was 15,000 homes. Those 15,000 homes, when you go on the website of the NRPB and you do the count, it's 350 homes they have rebuilt until now, in 5 years' time. So tell me, the Dutch can say, I gave you money, but they didn't give and they didn't do what they had to do to protect our people and make them more resilient. Mr. Gibbs, in the Netherlands, yearly, annually, the Dutch can build 60,000 new homes. So with that building capacity, if 25% of that building capacity was used, they could have built 15,000 homes in 1 year in our island. Why didn't they send it down? The Karel Doorman came a few times with what? Nothing but that kind of support. And so that is where you see, you can play nice in the world. Oh, I gave them money, but this is fake. Because what you gave in 1995 when Louis hit is the same amount you put down here. And you didn't change the amount, you didn't increase the amount, and you didn't even help out with the other support that you can provide as humans for the people that are in need in our society. By the way, I just read this morning that the Dutch Meteorological Service in the Netherlands came out with an article that this season of 2024 will be a very much busier hurricane season than before.
Yeah.
So if it is tomorrow that the next hurricane will come, of the 15,000 homes that they had to make resilient, 350 only you did? This is not how you provide us with an equal treatment in the kingdom.
Even schools are not rebuilt, some areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
Our airport takes a long time. The hospital taking a long time. So I put it this way. There is something that the Dutch, with all their knowledge that they have a problem in applying that knowledge and applying us with an equal treatment. They have a problem. Why they treat us like that? Why can't they do what they did in the Netherlands to help the people out? By the way, they told us last week in the conference that until today, even the people in Groningen, that is in the northern part, they still didn't help them out with all the trembles that they had because of the gas exploration and the homes that were damaged. So I show you the inequality in the kingdom is not only towards the Caribbean, but in terms of treating the people in the Netherlands also not equal. It is still at the order of the day. So we have to address, I call it this ungodly way of addressing our people. Because if you love God, you have to love your neighbor as yourself. And this is what the Dutch still have to do. And I think that we have to claim that treatment. We have to provide them with that mirror. Instead of them pointing in the world to all of those that are not adhering to human rights, they have 3 fingers in their own direction. That is showing that in their own yards, they are not complying with equal treatment.
You know, there are many people in the Dutch government who feel that Jessurun is a liability that they would like to just get rid of.
I want to look at it this way. For 5 centuries, they have been exploiting our islands. They still exploit. Because even when we got COVID assistance, we have to pay it back with interest. So you're making money out of disaster, need of the people. And who has to pay for that? It's we as the people. We have to put that tax money together for the government to pay that interest. So I show you again, this is ungodliness. this treatment should be addressed. And I think that based on how in the world they look at it, if you point fingers for countries that and states that are not upholding human rights, look at the three fingers in your own direction. Right. Your thumb is going up to God. The finger you're pointing is to another state that apparently, according to your norms, is not living up to human rights standards. And three fingers in your own direction, they have to change. They have to do what is right.
So, what else are your plans? Because you're a very, very busy man.
My mission is to continue to inform and educate. Speak out on behalf of the poor and the needy. It's in my Bible, and I suppose it's your Bible too. So just as you are speaking out through your radio programs, through your television programs, now through the internet, that is one way of addressing the issues and putting it in this direction that we have to treat everybody equal.
Well, Jessurun, I want to thank you for coming in. Hope you can come back sometime and join us on the radio Hot 99.9 FM. We'd love to have you on the conversation there.
You're welcome.
And that's it for now on Oral Gibbs Live, Facebook, YouTube, and Hot 99.9 FM radio. See you next time. Take care. Bye.